I was basically ranting how I don't watch anime nowadays because
I mean, you guys know that anyway. That's
but
that's not a revelation.
No.
But I think that a lot of people think it just because like I've fallen out of it. It's not that. It's that like I find so much anime just so goddamn boring now.
I just find it's not even about it being boring. It's just redundant. Like I just feel like it really says a lot about society.
Oh my god! See, he laughed. See, you like the meme. Okay, why does it say a lot about society, Jerry? I want to hear your explanation.
It's just he was gonna say it says a lot about anime.
I was gonna say it really says a lot about anime, but then the moment I said it really says a lot, it just like it was like
that was like the 100% unintentional pun.
I support this. Okay, go on.
It really says a lot about anime when when all it takes is for me to read a synopsis.
Yeah.
And I could probably tell you with 90% accuracy what the first 3 episodes of that anime is going to be about.
Yeah.
And you know, and not even in like an arty-farty general type of way, like in a detailed way.
Yeah, I would like to preface, as we have to preface every argument. You know, there's always like 1 or 2 shows that are good. And I think that are entertaining.
No, all anime sucks.
But like there's just so much like mediocre stuff that is so uninspired and just rehashing of what we've seen before and just kind of jumping off successful characters and premises we've had before. Like I was saying to Joe earlier, I was like, there's so many characters now. I feel like I've watched so many anime. Like I get the power fantasy ones, right?
Yeah.
But like, I understand that the point is that they're meant to be all powerful and they can't fuck up.
Yeah.
But like, is that always that fun? Like, is that always like great? Like sometimes I'm like, can you have like a flaw or something? Like something that makes you a little human so that I'm not like bored out of my mind watching you?
No, because
Saitama's bald, right? That's a flaw.
that's a flaw.
That's a flaw in itself.
I can relate, man. I can like, you know, like
I get it because it's like but that's the problem, right? Is that I think the reason why power fantasies are they make the most like quote unquote perfect main characters is because if they had flaws, it would completely go against the point of it being a power fantasy. It's like, why would I want to self-insert myself into this all-powerful character if this character that is supposed to be the better version of me also makes mistakes, right? I get that, but at the same time, it's like, okay, that's fine if you're self-inserting, but not every person who watches shows like that wants to self-insert. They just want to watch a character that is completely independent from them go through this adventure or whatever, right? But I don't know.
I feel like I'm like the spokesperson for like that kind of anime, and I'm just like, I completely recognize that. it's the problem with anime nowadays is that 1, there is so much of it, and number 2, a lot of it is what I just call disposable shows, where it's just not even like a show anymore. It's just content. It's just something you consume, right? So that's how I view a lot of isekai, right? The reason I watch a lot of isekai is because it's exactly the same thing. I'm not going to remember most of them, but I get the same kind of experience. It's the same region as what I see people watching, you know, quote unquote trash TV shows for, like trash reality shows.
So,
like you know what you're getting with, say, you know Kitchen Nightmares or Hell's Kitchen or something along those lines, where it's just a repeatable format. You know, Gordon Ramsay comes to a restaurant and surprise, surprise, the restaurant sucks. You know, and
that's why I also don't watch shows like that either. For the exact same reason.
But there's like a massive market for that.
Absolutely.
I agree in some senses, but then it also feels like especially isekai, it's just like so inbred. You know what I mean? Like, it's like they don't take from anything else. They just keep fucking. Like, they just keep having
it is incestuous.
God, calm down.
The incest card?
But like these shows, when I'm watching them, it just feels like the shows aren't trying to take from anything interesting. They're all just taking from the successful show in their own category. Yeah. Right. So I kind of feel like I'm just losing my mind watching these shows where like no one even tries to do anything even remotely different.
Yeah, it's the issue of like anime that is inspired by anime. Like isekai as a genre is basically just like a self-sucking like circle where it's like is it Ouroboros? Where it's like
Ouroboros,
the fucking snake eating itself.
Yeah.
Or just,
it is an Ouroboros, and that's why, again, like, it just feels derivative. Like, you watch a show that is supposedly brand new, and I just read through the synopsis and I go, I feel like I've seen this show about 10 times.
I'm glad you say that. Sorry, Gon. Just because I feel like if I was just saying that, I feel like some people might argue there's a language difference going on where I can't fully understand the nuance of these characters.
Like, I just go, like, every time I go to a bookstore, right, and I'm trying to find something new, and I go over to the light novel section because I always want to see, like, what's popular. What's poppin', right? Yeah. Because I'm just curious. It's like, okay, maybe there's like a change or something, right? I go over and I see all these new titles I've never heard of. And I just look at the title and I look at the covers and I go, how is this title and cover any different to the one next to it? It doesn't, they just look like spin-offs of each other. Just from the feel, and even going through the synopsis, I just think to myself, it's like this book right here was inspired by the book sitting next to it, and vice versa. There's no difference. It's just a reskin of the same thing. So every time, I do like the what will I be watching, which is where I go to the next season. Right?
Biggest lie of the century.
Exactly. But nowadays, the reason why I still continue that show on my channel is because it's not because I actually sit through and watch all the anime I talk about. It's so that I can hopefully find that one show that will actually be non-derivative and somewhat interesting for me to actually go and watch.
Which is why for like the isekai genre now, especially like the show that I'm like been bigging up so much is Mushoku Tensei. Which is just like it's the isekai that basically started the whole isekai light novel trend in terms of this is the one series that, from what I can see, has like this is the one progenitor for all the tropes or a lot of the tropes that you've seen. And like watching the anime adaptation, which is airing right now, it's just a really fucking good show. It's like I'm not saying it's a good show for an isekai. It's just a really good show. It's a great fucking fantasy.
Yeah. So it's not until I've started watching Mushoku Tensei. I'm like halfway through the first season because season 2 right now, right?
Yeah, season 2 right now. Yeah.
So I started watching the first season just because Gon and a bunch of other people were like, "Oh, this is the one that started it all," and I was like, "Bet, I'll check it out."
Yeah.
And yeah, I completely agree. Like, it's not only, you can see where all of the origins of what made the isekai genre so great came from, but it's also, as you said, it's just a good show.
Yeah, like the fact that it just, like with so many isekai and so many of these disposable anime nowadays, it's like the first episode airs and the anime is like, you know how it is. You know how it is. Yeah. We don't need to explain shit. We don't need to like build up the world or the characters. You know this character archetype. You know this world. And like, I remember watching the first episode of Mushoku Tensei, and they spent like a whole episode with where they're building up this character and how he dies and how he's a baby and how he like wakes up in this world and he's just like figuring out the world, even though in every other isekai they're just like dies, isekai'd. It's like 5 minutes.
It really says a lot when I've watched some isekai. Shut up.
It really says a lot about
isekai. It really says a lot about isekai society. When I start up a show, just a generic isekai show, just wanting to see what it is. And I think I'm watching episode 1, but it feels like I'm halfway through the season.
Yeah.
Just because they just assume you already know all these tropes.
Yeah.
And it's like, are you not going to try and make it unique or interesting or explain anything about the world? Do you just assume that everyone who watches the show already has seen this show in some other form?
Because like sometimes you also watch an anime as well where you can tell that the people behind this put a lot of effort into this. There's like that extra tinge, that extra sparkle that you know that
you can tell when an anime is just like clearly thrown together.
Like for Mushoku Tensei, for example, like with a lot of anime that they speak where the characters speak a different language and they just don't even bother and they just like they translate it back into Japanese even though the characters are not technically speaking Japanese. Yeah, so in Mushoku Tensei, they didn't just make up one language. They made up 2 separate fantasy made-up languages for this show, which is used in the show. Yeah. And I've never seen that with any other anime, especially not any other isekai or fantasy anime, where the characters are actually speaking to like the fantasy characters in their own language, which is just a made-up isekai language or a made-up fantasy language. And then different species have different languages. So they literally have just made up 2 separate languages. I'm just like, this is the shit that not like everyone will appreciate, but this is one big indicator that someone the people producing this show really gives a shit.
Yeah.
You know,
it's like Welsh or something.
Yeah.
It's like Icelandic.
Like they made this shit up. It's
like, because you watch Vinland Saga, right?
Yeah.
So do you remember that scene where I think it was like, it wasn't Askeladd, but it was Thorfinn talking to some French people with also English people there, and Thorfinn is from Scandinavian, whatever the Scandinavian language is. But they were all speaking Japanese to
really
each
jarring.
other.
I really hate that.
And they were all speaking Japanese, telling each other how they can't understand what each other are saying, even though they were all speaking Japanese. And I'm just like, this is Vinland Saga, fucking amazing anime. But there are little things like that are just like immersion breaking, you know?
No, it really does make a difference. And, you know, that's what I would argue some of the greatest fantasy stories out there is what made it so engaging. I mean, like, could you imagine if you were watching fucking Lord of the Rings and just Elven wasn't just spoken at all, and like every character's speaking to the Elvens in English, you know, like that could be such immersion breaking, and it would also just completely ruin the world building.
Well, even like Netflix dramas, right? They'll sometimes have like 4 or 5 language, different casts and everything alongside, and that's like something that I always get, like, I appreciate a fuck ton. That I love that, like. Yeah, but in anime, it just feels like that never ever happens. I feel like I know it's happened a few times. I can't remember which ones. I know it has, but it just never really happens. Like,
it just sucks as well, though, that I feel the main reason why a lot of anime just opt to not do that is just because they think, oh, the audience isn't going to be fucked.
Right. Well, I mean, I think most in an ideal world they would like to do it, but it's just. There's so much anime being made now that so much of it is made under a big time crunch.
That is true as well.
You know,
I wonder with the whole anime thing. Is it like a natural thing if me as an anime fan who's watched anime for a very long time to get bored of anime? Is it a natural occurrence, or is it that I'm being picky? I don't know, because you know.
Would you say you're growing out of anime?
I don't think I'm growing out.
Dare I say?
Really says a lot about society.
You know, it does say a lot about society, Joe. One thing that says a lot about society. I feel like a lot of anime, and you know, a lot of anime do this kind of like disguise of like, we're not for kids. But then you watch it and you watch the character dialogue and how they talk, and you're like, only a teenager would think like this is how people talk to each other.
Yeah.
Like this is not like a real conversation. That's why, like, you know, I hate to use a Western example, but like Castlevania, like the script in Castlevania was so goddamn good. Like the character interactions in Castlevania were so good. Like I wanted to know more about these characters every time they spoke, even the ones I didn't like.
I agree.
Because every character when they spoke about anything was a fucking delight. But in anime, it's always just like, it's got to serve the plot. If it doesn't, something about tits or funny, I don't know, like me being OP. And like I was saying earlier as well, another thing I really dislike, right? Lelouch is like anime's favorite character, and it really fucking shows, because like there's so many characters that are like Lelouch light, but like fail to see what made Lelouch so good, right?
It's like Diet Lelouch.
Lelouch is good to me because
what did make Lelouch good then?
One, right? First of all, you get lured in with this, oh my god, he's a genius, right? Like he's cool, he's sick, bro, he's so strong. And then you realize he's a fucking psychopath, and that he's scared as well, like anyone else in this world. And the thing that I find that a lot of, and you know, even like Light, right? Light in Death Note, Light makes mistakes. Light worries. Light panics. Light freaks out, right? Like with a lot of these power fantasy shows where they try and make a character that like resembles or takes from that, I find that most of the time it's so boring because there's absolutely no other character trait to them. Maybe the one thing they're sad about is like the Saitama thing where like, I'm so strong, it's boring. But even then, the way that One Punch Man does it is really tasteful. I don't even know how to describe how.
Because the show doesn't take itself seriously.
Saitama does it in a way that's kind of like really fun and really playful, that doesn't really take itself too much. But anytime I watch these power fantasy shows, I feel like my brain is rotting. Like I'm watching it and I'm just like, I'd rather watch Big Ed have like some mental breakdown and put it on 90 Day Fiancé. Like, I don't know how to put it. Like, I feel like anime treats me like I'm stupid. And I hate that.
A lot of anime shows do treat the audience like they're stupid.
I hate it.
Maybe because a lot of them are.
Like Jojo assumes I'm stupid and then doesn't give a fuck and carries on anyway. Like, Jojo doesn't care. I you know, it's fucking stupid, but I love it.
Yeah, I mean, I was telling these boys earlier that I've recently had to start watching anime at like 2 times speed or 1.5 times speed, which is like
because 1 times speed is so boring,
which is like fucking insane to me. And I don't watch it at that point for enjoyment. It's just because
it's just to consume.
Yeah, right? It's just for like my seasonal videos where I do have to watch everything. I remember it got to a point like 2-3 years ago where you look at the seasonal chart and you're like, if I watched everything on this chart, I'd literally be watching 2 seasons worth of anime every week, just to keep up with every show being aired.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, and it's just like, it's just impossible to actually consume or watch everything coming out now. That's why a lot of it is just disposable shit, honestly.
And
I'll go.
No, I was about to say, and you know, that's, I guess, like one of the biggest like criticisms I get about like Joey doesn't watch anime. It's like yeah, because I can't. It's there's so much shit out there. So much of it is so derivative that I would dead ass rather go back and watch shows that I didn't get to watch all those years ago, or shows that came out before I was even born. Right? Like I'd much rather spend the time on that because there is in fact less of a selection all those years ago than there is every single year, like new shows coming out. Right?
Yeah,
and it's like like I don't know, like I'm limited with my time. Right? Like I don't want to spend fucking 20 hours of the day watching a bunch of shit that I'm not going to remember next week because it's so fucking mediocre and redundant.
You always do like these, right? So you do the anime, the seasonal anime videos, right? And like I watch them, so I watch them. I watch them, and like I feel like after I've watched them now, you'll always like talk about a show or two that sounds amazing, and then I'll never hear you ever mention it ever again. What's up with that?
What's up with that? Well, I talk about shows that have potential, right?
Okay.
And a lot of them might not say pan out, and some of them do.
They might fizzle out.
Yeah, they might fizzle out. That's why I do like my end of year videos as well, which is just like, okay, these are the shows that I actually stuck with because so there are some good shows that air every season, but then there are some shows that I feel are just the best and are best consumed via anime, right? There are some shows that have interesting concepts that I call like manga recommendation shows, which is I watched like the first 2 episodes. I'm like, this is really interesting, but like you know when it's just like an average adaptation. So what happens is I just go off and read the manga, and I'm like, cool, I don't need to watch the anime anymore.
I have a much better experience reading the manga, right?
Yeah. You know,
that does happen.
Yeah, when you just watch a show and you're just like, I can get this exact same experience just reading the manga, and then you do, and then you're like, great, the seasonal anime did its job as a manga recommendation channel.
There's like something about reading manga that is way more palatable for shitty shows.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but I think when these characters are so boring, because I can just speed run through their boring ass dialogue, it's like way more enjoyable. Like
I think it's because there are more like places or more factors in anime that leave for a larger room for error.
Yeah.
Like, because the only thing you have to really worry about with a manga is the dialogue and the artwork and the story. Yeah. But whereas with anime, you have things like voice acting to worry about. You have things like sequencing to worry about. You have things like animation and fucking music. And like, there's all these other factors that could make that show look and feel way more mediocre than the core of the show.
Yeah, which is why like I rarely read manga that hasn't been released yet, because I do feel, even now that I'm reading more manga, that if there's a good anime adaptation, it's just untouched. Like like a good anime adaptation of a good manga, fucking untouched. Like I would rather experience the anime firsthand, which is why when these anime do get released and I see 1 or 2 episodes, that's all I need to see to be like, okay, this is going to be a mediocre adaptation. I'm just going to read the manga, you know. And there's so many shows right now which I feel like you can just read the manga and you'll be completely fine with.
Yeah.
But there are just like those 1 or 2 gems every season, or like most seasons, where you're just like, okay, this is a banger. I'm glad anime exists because of these fucking shows.
Yeah,
right?
True.
Like Attack on Titan's one of those, right?
Oh yeah, 100%. I love Attack on Titan.
I cannot read the manga for Attack on Titan.
I refuse to read it. I just want people are going to try and spoil it.
Yeah, I mean, like, not to demerit anyone who does read the manga, but I just feel like Attack on Titan anime is the best way to like experience that story. And
I agree.
I can't imagine getting like the emotional highs I did with the story without having watched it in the anime first.
Yeah. And again, it's because I feel that because of the added factors that make an anime different from a manga, like the animation, the voice acting, the music.
Yeah.
In the case with Attack on Titan, all of those were fucking amazing.
Yeah,
so it just heightened.
Angry about the anime, though.
But that's the thing. It's like those like anime only factors only heightened an already great story and characters,
exactly.
right? So that's why I feel you just get a better experience with the anime.
Yeah.
But a lot of anime adaptations can't do that. In fact, they pull it down sometimes.
Yeah, exactly. Which is why like there's some shows where like I know is gonna like slap, like Chainsaw Man.
Yeah.
That's one show where I'm like, I could read the manga because I know it's a fucking amazing manga. But I want to wait. I want to wait for the anime.
See, but that's good though that you guys are waiting, because in case it sucks, you have a great manga to look forward to. So it's just a win for you guys, right?
Yeah,
for me, it's like I've already read the manga multiple times now, so like I'm scared that my experience could go really far down, or it could just keep getting better. Like I'm at a gambling stage right now. For you guys, it's like I don't care what the plot is. I'm fucking taking on the money.